Hey guys, it's Aiden. So, welcome to another video. And today we're going to be predicting the results of the 2020 election. And so, I'm outside right now, so there's a few things wrong with this. Number one, I have to place you guys on a tree. So the leaves are kind of making this weird little shadow thing all over me. And there's also a guy mowing his lawn just right next to me, so it's okay. But let's get right into this. So basically, I predict elections because I'm a nerd. I do predict elections. I predicted the Senate elections last year. I predicted 13 out of 14 of the battleground Senate elections in 2018. And I believe, I know for a fact that I got my margins, because I also guessed the vote share of the candidates. And I got those more accurate than 538.com, which is regarded as one of the most accurate election prediction websites. So basically, I think that Trump will underperform the polls in some areas like he did in 2016, and I think he will outperform the polls in some places like he did in 2016, but it's a state-by-state thing. Take a look at Arizona, which I predict will go for Joe Biden. In 2018, it was victim of the blue wave that hit the nation. It voted for a Democratic senator, Kyrsten Sinema, and yeah, I think Republicans may have lost a seat in the House, but I don't think so. But anyways, Arizona will go blue. It will fall victim to the blue wave that hit the planet in. Oh no, I can't talk. It will go blue this year because it's already been proven that it does go blue when Trump is president, like it did in 2018. But you take a look at Florida. I think Florida will actually stay in Trump's column this year because you take a look at 2018, the governor's election, which was in the midst of the blue tsunami that was hitting the United States. Ron DeSantis won the election over Andrew Gillum. Andrew Gillum was leading in the polls and stuff, just like Joe Biden is right now. I think Trump will pull off a win because I think that's the only swing state where Trump isn't really a toxic candidate, you know? But at the same time, I actually think Georgia and North Carolina will go Democratic because, well, North Carolina was one of the hardest states to predict in this election because Trump did outperform the polls, and he's losing by almost a similar margin that he was in 2016, but I think he's actually doing slightly worse. So I think it will vote for Joe Biden, but very narrowly because the early votes, the mail-in votes are actually really benefiting Biden right now. And I don't know if Trump's going to be able to turn out enough voters on election day in North Carolina specifically. Georgia isn't really based on any polls or anything like that. I mean, polls do have Biden almost ahead lately, or ahead in some polls, losing in some polls. It's very close in Georgia. I think it's one of the closest states in the nation right now. But I do think it will vote for Biden because of the Georgia Senate election between Jon Ossoff and David Perdue. I think Jon Ossoff will win that election, but the only reason I think he'll win the election is just because of the last debate between Perdue and Ossoff, where Ossoff basically completely destroyed Perdue. He's been leading in almost every poll since then, for the most part. And I think that the candidate who has the most momentum going into the election usually wins the election. We all know this. And therefore, I think that Ossoff will win the Georgia Senate election, which will carry Biden over the finish line in Georgia. And the Georgia special Senate election, I do predict that Trump will lose. But at the same time, I don't think Trump will concede the election. And think about how that will affect the runoff election between Raphael Warnock and Kelly Loeffler or Doug Collins, whichever Republican makes it through. If Trump denies the results of the election or refuses to concede, then that will make Republicans more toxic than they already are, especially in a swing state like Georgia. I can see Trump's approval rating go down around 5 to 10 points if he refuses to concede, which will at the same time already drag the divided Republican Party of Georgia down where it's already been dragged down. Past where it's already been dragged down. And I think that will be enough for Raphael Warnock to carry Ossoff's victory and build on it, actually. I think if Trump refuses to concede, Raphael Warnock will win the Georgia Senate special election by around 3 or 4 points. But let's take a look at Ohio and Iowa, two close states that Trump won by around 8 to 10 points last time around. I think Trump will win both of them, and the only reason I think that is because, well, let's take a look at Iowa, for example. Iowa did keep the Republican governor in 2018, but they weren't immune to the blue wave. They did lose 2 seats in the House in 2018, and they'll likely re-elect most of those. They'll likely re-elect Abby Finkenauer and Cindy Axon. And I think Iowa's 4th congressional district is going to be slightly closer than people expect it to be, because I did see some polls recently that did have Randy Feenstra only ahead by 3 or 4 points or something like that. But at the same time, I think it's mostly safe Republican seat. I actually rated it as likely Republican in my House forecast model. I do have my full predictions posted on Facebook, like the pictures and everything of the maps. But obviously I couldn't upload those because I'm just going to analyze the results right now. I'm going to analyze what I think is going to happen. I think in the Midwest, oh yeah, let's keep talking about, I went off topic a little bit. Iowa and Ohio. Iowa will vote for Trump because I think he's ahead in the polling averages right now, and he won it by so much in 2016. Also, one of the most accurate polls, which usually predicts the election pretty well, a Des Moines Register poll. They usually release it right before the election, and it's usually pretty accurate. It had Trump ahead by 7 points. So I think he will win Iowa. I think he will win Ohio, because that is basically Trump country, Appalachia. He will turn out voters in, I don't know how to describe it, the Appalachia part of the state. The part of the state that's in the southeast. Yeah. Holy shit. Anyways, yeah, Trump will win Ohio by maybe around 2 or 3 points. But you take a look at Michigan and Wisconsin, for example. I think that those states will go for Joe Biden just because he's leading in them by more than Hillary Clinton was in 2016. There's a recent poll that came out. Biden was leading in Wisconsin by 17 points. That's more than Obama won by in 2008, I believe. But anyways, he'll likely win those states and whatnot. But Pennsylvania, I think that will be one of the closest states in the nation. And I know polling has Biden around 5 or 6 points ahead, or something like that. But I think that Trump will actually pull off a win there. But here's why. Number one, there isn't any popular Democratic incumbents seeking statewide election, because the governor's election was in 2018. Tom Wolf was reelected by a pretty good percentage during the blue wave. But the reason I think Trump will win Pennsylvania is because I don't even know how to explain it. There is no facts based off this. It is purely based off this gut feeling I had in 2016 that Trump was going to win Michigan and Wisconsin and Pennsylvania, but not Minnesota. And I think the same will happen in 2020, except Michigan and Wisconsin will go back to blue. But I think it will be by a lower margin than the polls anticipate. I think Trump will lose Michigan by around 4 or 5 points. I think Trump will lose Wisconsin by around 5 or 6 points. And I think that Trump will win Pennsylvania by around less than 0.5%. And the reason I believe this is because I don't think all the votes will be counted. I think that if all the votes are counted, Biden will win almost every state I mentioned, including Florida, including Arizona. Well, actually, no, not Florida, not Arizona. Well, actually, yes, Arizona, but not Florida, because all the votes will be counted by the end of the night tonight, most likely, and Trump will win. But I do think that Biden would win Pennsylvania and Michigan and Wisconsin if all the votes were counted. But I think that Trump will likely try to halt the rest of the votes from being counted, and I think he will have some success, at least a little bit. I think that there'll still be some votes that won't be counted that will likely be enough to push Biden over the finish line, but at the same time, I think Pennsylvania, I just have this gut feeling that it will end up voting Republican. And if I'm wrong, I'm wrong, but I don't think I'm going to be wrong this time around, because I wasn't in 2016, even though I thought I was. And there's a bird in my tree. Anyways, let's go to the Senate elections now. I already predicted both the Georgia Senate elections, they'll both go blue. North Carolina, Cal Cunningham's going to defeat Tom Tillis. It's pretty obvious at that point because he's leading by more than Biden is in the polls for the most part. Maine, I think Susan Collins will lose re-election, which is actually very sad. But the reason I actually think Susan Collins could outperform the polls if Trump wasn't on the ticket, because Trump's likely going to lose Maine by over 10%. I don't think Trump will outperform the polls in New England. I think he will lose New Hampshire by, I don't think he'll lose it by over 10 points, but I think he'll lose it by around 8 or 9 or something like that. But I might be wrong again. We don't know what's going to happen because we don't have a way of knowing all the votes are going to be counted. But yeah, Maine will probably vote for Sarah Gideon, and she'll become the next senator from Maine. New Hampshire, obviously, Jeanne Shaheen's going to be reelected over Corky Messner, who's super far right. I don't know what the New Hampshire Republican Party was thinking when they nominated him. By the way, I'm going without any notes right now, so this is all off the top of my head. Montana will vote for Steve Daines, most likely over Steve Bullock, just because I think Trump will carry him over the finish line. And yeah, Colorado, it's going to flip to John Hickenlooper because Cory Gardner is, you know, I feel bad for Cory Gardner because he's the type of Republican that could win in Colorado. But at the same time, Trump's on the ticket. And Trump is so toxic. He's just so, he's like a poison to Republicans in the Sun Belt. Colorado, New Mexico, Arizona, Nevada. Republicans used to be competitive in New Mexico, for example. But if I recall, in the 2018 governor's election, Michelle Lujan Grisham won the election by over 10 points. If I recall, it was a few points more than 10 points. And I think the same will go for the presidential election. I think Biden will win New Mexico by over 10 points. I think that Ben Ray Lujan, who I think is running in New Mexico, yeah, he's running in New Mexico. I think he'll win the Senate election, obviously. Let me see. Let me think who else is running in battleground states. Mississippi, Alabama, Mississippi, Cindy Hyde-Smith will win re-election. I actually think Mississippi is more competitive than Alabama, because Mike Epstein is actually doing better in polls in Mississippi than Doug Jones is in Alabama. Tommy Tuberville is going to become the next senator from Alabama. He's going to win by likely over 10 points, I believe, just because Trump's going to win the state by so much, and he'll carry Tommy Tuberville over the finish line. And also, Doug Jones isn't really doing much to keep his seat. I think he knows he's going to lose. Everybody knows he's going to lose, so he's kind of just waiting for it so he can go back to a career in the legal field after, most likely because he was a prosecutor before. I actually think he'll be looking forward to serving the Biden administration, to be honest. Let's see, I can't think of any other competitive races. Michigan, Gary Peters is going to win over John James. I think it will be closer than the polls anticipate, though. I think because just like it was in 2018, John James was running against Debbie Stabenow. Polls had him down, I don't remember by how much, but it was by quite a bit, and he ended up only losing by 6 or 7 points. But now polls have him losing Michigan by only around 6 or 7 points. And so I think therefore he will outperform a little bit and still lose by around maybe 4 or 5 points. Similarly to Trump's loss in Michigan. Iowa. Now, Iowa is one of the closest Senate races in the country because Joni Ernst is running about a point or two behind Trump in Iowa. But therefore, I think Trump will win Iowa by around 3 points. So I think that Joni Ernst will win Iowa as well. But I think it will be the closest Senate race in the country. And if I'm wrong, but I don't think I will be. Louisiana, it's going to be forced into a runoff because there's so many candidates running. Bill Cassidy will end up winning re-election. Arkansas, Tom Conn's going to win. Kansas, that's another one I was thinking of. I can't remember who's running. It's I think it's Marshall versus Boyer. And Marshall will win, obviously, but it's not going to be that close. Some people think Boyer could pull off an upset, but I don't think she will. I think because Trump's on the ballot and whatnot, it's going to go Republican by around 5 or 6 points, maybe more, maybe less. I don't know. But the House, I think the Democrats will maintain their majority in the House. And again, I don't have any notes, so if I forget something, please forgive me. I think that Democrats will gain a few seats in the House, but at the same time, Republicans will gain a few seats. But I think Democrats in the end will gain a few more seats so that they will increase their majority by, I believe, 3 seats. But I might be wrong. Republicans will flip Utah's 4th Congressional District and Oklahoma's 5th Congressional District, defeating Ben McAdams and Kendra Horn. I believe that and they'll also flip Minnesota's 7th Congressional District, I believe it is. I think they'll finally defeat Colin Peterson because number 1, Trump's on the ballot. Number 2, they have a really good Republican candidate, or at least a really electable one. And by the way, this should be clear because some people still think that I'm a Trump supporter. I am not a Trump supporter. I'm just trying to be as unbiased as possible. I think that some parts of the country will have Republicans vote the way that they usually do, that they didn't in 2018, which will lead to some freshman Democratic incumbents losing their seats, like Kendra Horn and Ben McAdams. But I think at the same time, I really think it just depends on the state because some states will will view Trump as so toxic that they'll continue to vote for the Democratic incumbents. You know, like in Michigan, Iowa, the freshman Democratic incumbents who defeated Republicans, I think they will hold their seats, like Alyssa Slotkin, Haley Stevens in Michigan, and in Iowa, Cindy Axon, Abby Finkenauer. Yeah, but really, I honest to God think that nothing's going to change that much in terms of the House. There are going to be a few seats that are going to change, but the makeup isn't going to change that much. And with that being said, get out to vote if you haven't already. If you see this video in time, this election is too important to sit on the sidelines. I know we say that every election, but it really is. Every election is important, truly. Because think about it like this. If Donald Trump wins another 4 years, he's not going to have to worry about elections. He's not going to have to worry about doing something so unpopular and disgusting that they'll vote him out of office. I hope to God, if he's elected and tries to do anything, that Nancy Pelosi and the Congress will take steps to actually remove him from office. Because this is just unacceptable, that we have a president who thinks that the rule of law doesn't apply to him. But yeah, I think overall the Democrats will win a 52-48 majority in the Senate. And I forget the exact number for the House, but it's in the late 230s for the Democrats and 196 for the Republicans. And as it comes to the House, not the House, but the Electoral College, I think Biden will win with a little bit over 300 electoral votes, and Trump will receive, I believe the number was 237. Yeah, but have a great day, guys. Get out to vote.